So you think you're the bee's knees, you think you're great at doing mixing and mastering all in one session. It's great how you don't need to think about them as two different things. They just happen these days, don't they? They just do. Well, this is a video where I'm going to tell you why it's wrong for you to mix and master at exactly the same time. So mixing and mastering at the same time is definitely a bad idea. I would not want to do that. Now, there are ways of producing that I think you need to adhere to. They're old school ways. It's about mixing onto a mix bus and then leaving enough headroom for the mastering engineer or to do the mastering yourself. Now, yes, as you're working, there's a lot of people on YouTube that give you bad information on this, and they say that you should do this, and that's, you know, you will get this sound at the end because one sort of house artist did it at some point and got it sounding loud. But trust me, you will get a better sound by listening to this advice. What you want to do is you want to mix, and then you can have your limiter on the end of the mix bus. Now, you might want to mix into that limiter so that you can hear how loud things are going to sound, which is fine. But what you want to do is at the end of the session, take the limiter off and then forget about the mix that you've just done, because you've got your mix done. All your levels are right. It's how you wanted it to sound. It's how you mixed it. It sounded great. Take the limiter off, bounce the session out as a stereo file. Now, open up a new template the next day, not on the same day, if you can. Open up a new template. Now you're setting up for a mastering session. So what you want to do is you're then listening to it with a fresh set of ears. If you can, the longest time you can leave between it is better, because if you've actually been the person that's made it and you've done all the sections all the way through, the main reason for this, the whole reason why I'm saying this, is because you're going to know everything about this track. You're going to know what problems you had. You're going to know what levels things were at, why they're at that level, what was annoying you, what dynamics were on the track, what EQs were on different solo instruments, why they were blended, why you move that. You know everything about it. When you're coming to master it, you don't want to know about all that stuff. That stuff's in the past. It's done. You don't want to touch it. The problem is when you mix and master at the same time, you've still got the chance to move those things, to change those things, to do all the dynamics and change all your mix. And what you're doing there is you're still mixing. So what you want to do is shelve all that, export the stereo master, put it into a new session where it's your mix session. Get a mastering where it's your mastering session. Then what you want to do is have a mastering setup, however you want to master, and then start mastering. So listen to it as a stereo track. What does it need? All you're dealing with is the veneer when you're mastering. You're not dealing with the individual instruments. How are things working? How does the sound? Is it bright? Is it dull? Is it need more bass? Does the bass need tightening? Does the thing? You're looking at the bass all as one solid unit. You're not listening to it as a little individual instrument. The same with the guitars and the vocals. They're all together in the mix. How are you going to get those to sound? Do they need to pop out a bit more? You know, you haven't got the facility to change the stuff. Don't change the stuff. That's not how you master. That's how you mix. So it's really important to keep the two processes separate, because when you get the stereo master, the stereo mix, and then you go to master it, it will then be louder, it will be clearer, it will sound more together, it will be more glued, it will sound like a finished track, it will sound like a commercial record, because that's how commercial records are made. So when you are trying to mix and master at the same time, it's not going to work. You're not going to get a great sound. You need to have them as two separate things. And then really that's the most, you know, it's the same way as if you're recording and mixing at the same time. As you're recording, you kind of have an ear on what you think the mix would go like, but then you sort of park the recording and then you go into mixing. In the same way, I say you put a limiter on the end of your mix bus so that you kind of keep an ear on how it's going to sound when it's finished mastered at that level, but you haven't mastered it. You park the mixing and then you move on to the mastering. That's how it works. That's how you get a good sound, by using all these separate stages, and then you kind of leave that stuff behind. Now, yes, obviously I go back to people all the time and say, can you just nudge the vocal up a bit? Can you just put the bass down a bit, or whatever? So that's fine to do, because then it means you've fought with it in the mastering stage and you realise, okay, I'm not going to be able to get this to sound better with a bit of EQ. It's better if they pop the vocal up half a dB or a dB, and then it's going to stand out more. I don't have to put so much top on, which is changing the sound of the guitars and snares and blah, blah, blah. So yes, you can go back and do that yourself rather than me having to ask somebody for that. Oh, that's annoying. Anonymous. So that's the reason why you can't mix and master at exactly the same time. I'm not saying you can't be a mixer or a mastering engineer. Of course, you can do anything you want to do. You can be a recording engineer, you can be a mix engineer, you can be a mastering engineer, but just don't do them all at the same time in the same session because it's just too much, okay? So just keep them as separate processes and you will get a much better sound. If you like this kind of thing, please make sure you subscribe. If you've got anything that you want to add to this, if you think I'm wrong, then please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to get your feedback. If you like this kind of thing, then please go to streaky.com, sign up to the Audio Anoraks newsletter. There's loads of discounts on plugins and gear and stuff like that, and there's giveaways, and there's also advice and things that I see online that you might like. So there's about 25,000 others on there, so get stuck in, go to streaky.com, Audio Anoraks newsletter. Thanks for watching. Till next time, goodbye.